exile, delusion, denies, divine, concrete, clocks, clouded concepts, cover, pleasure, pleases senses, love then lingers, languishes far away. This is something I started writing a couple of days ago and finished it yesterday. Against the grain. Absolutely, reality. You are right. Grain of salt, relative reality. Grain of suffering. Baba cared, empathetic. You are still in numbness. Not Vedanta, not yoga, not Kashmir Shaivism, not this, not this. Ganesh, remover of obstacles, feels the boulders to dissolve. You sit high on mountain top, no longer human. Self of all being, no care, care with detachment. Forsake all, let go, free to play. Just sit in emptiness. Baba said, to love. So Sat Chit Ananda to us all. Humanity somewhat still intact. In order to care for the soul, we have to acknowledge what comes out of the soul. A grain of salt, a grain of sugar, a grain of sand. Baba cared for it all because he knew God dwelled in all. And if that's the case, then why do a trichotomy? Why look at all our relative reality life? Why not just let it go? Why bother? Why not just love, be happy? Grain of salt, doesn't matter. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Just be happy. Just be happy. So, this passage from Yaneshwar on his commentary, Yaneshwar's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, and I've read it a lot. One of my most favorite passages. And the part is where Arjuna says, the supreme mystery, the discourse concerning the self, thou hast given out of grace for me. By this my bewilderment is gone from me. Then Arjuna said to the Lord, O compassionate one, for my sake hast thou spoken to me of that which is inexpressible. When the great elements had been reabsorbed into the Absolute, and individual souls and other manifestations of matter no longer existed, then God alone remained. That is the final cessation. It was this knowledge that thou hast kept hidden within the recesses of thy heart, like a miser, and which was withheld even from the Vedas. This heart thou hast laid open before me today, the secret to gain which Shankara laid aside his glory. O Lord, thou hast conferred this on me in a moment. Yet, were I to say this, how can it be said that I am one with thee? Perceiving that I was submerged in the flood of the great illusion, thou, Hare, didst indeed plunge into it and rescue me. There is none other beside thee in the whole world, but see our fate, that we imagined ourselves existing apart from thee. Filled with pride in my personality, I thought that I was Arjuna in this world and said that the Kauravas were my relatives. In addition to that, I had the evil dream that I would kill them, and then what should I do? But the Lord wakened me from my sleep. It was as though I had abandoned a celestial home and was seeking to drink water from a mirage, O Lord of Lakshmi, or as though if one were to touch a snake made of cloth, one would actually feel waves of its poison. Thine, O Ananta, is the credit of saving the soul of one who was about to die in a similar delusion. A lion, not recognizing his own shadow, may jump into a well thinking it sees another lion. Thou hast saved me from a similar plight. Until now, I had resolved not to fight against my kinsmen. Even should all the 7 seas be merged in one, the whole world be submerged and the skies crash down, still I would not fight with my kinsmen. In this way, in an excess of egotism, I had leapt into the waters of self-will. It is well that thou wert near. Otherwise, who would have saved me? I, being no one, thought I was a person and called those my relatives who in reality did not exist. Thou hast saved me from this great madness. Already thou hast rescued me from burning in the fire of wax. But then it was only the body, which was in danger. Now it is the fire of another kind, and my soul as well is threatened. Is it the truth? Yes. But how many of us live that truth? And how do we get to that truth? How did Arjuna get to that truth? He was on the field about to fight his relatives, not knowing that the one who could save him, Krishna, was right there with him. And he wanted, seeing and thinking he saw the way everything was to play out, that he knew best and was going to then leave the field and become a renunciate. And Krishna starts the dialogue to open up the understanding. And then when Arjuna asks, please show me the truth, show me your true image that is not an image. And Krishna does. And Arjuna is overwhelmed. But he sees and experiences. He would not have been ready at the beginning to have had that grace of Krishna's true self. And so we prepare. And by preparing, it isn't as if we then each decide, though many of us do, that someone else's life is not important and our lives are important, or our lives are not important and someone else's life important. No. And if you remember, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna does go and fight his cousins. He does accept the reality of relative reality and plays it out as it should be, which we then go to, where was he at the beginning? Totally in beta, difference. Only saw differentiation. And Krishna had to bring him to beta, abeta, unity, seeing, feeling, living unity in the reality, relative reality of differentiation, seeing what's really underneath. By giving him also the experience of abeta, which, as we know, Arjuna was not ready to handle. Too much. But he saw the reality and therefore was willing to play his part appropriately. Each of us, and battle, all scriptures talk about battle, fighting, facing the enemy, facing, whether it's Old Testament, New Testament, Christianity, Buddhism, which appears to be nonviolent, but you still have to face the battle. Judaism, Muslim, Hindu, all the scriptures of Vedanta, Kashmir Shaivism, yoga. It's all about learning to face the truth and living it truthfully. So we cannot get to where Arjuna got to until we are ready to have already faced the reality of relative reality of our own relative reality, and not pretend it's all fine, just be happy, it's all cool, it's all good. And so I look at, from Baba, there were two ways that people could have gone. Actually, three. There was the way of New Age. Let's not talk about anything negative. Let's not look at our lives. Let's avoid. Let's not clean up anything. We don't have to. Just be happy. Just talk positive. It's all positive. There's that. Then there's the renunciation and Brahman of the Hindu culture of following all the rituals, external rituals, chanting all the chants that are out there, scriptural chants, and in a way do a different kind of avoidance through nihilistic, is that the word? Nihilistic living. Renouncing. It's not real. It's a grain of salt. Who cares? And when we look at the story of whatever God does, He does for good. And that prime minister who, when people would come to him and say, my baby died, and he'd say, whatever God does, He does for good. He may have been right, but he certainly wasn't helping anyone. So when we look at trichotomies, the whole point of them is for us as individuals to be able to free ourselves so that we can be open to the experience of the Absolute, of grace. And we cannot be eyes open until we own that we protect our narrative, that we hold fast to ignorance, that we are constantly avoiding, but we do destroy our worldview. If we're not destroying it, at least somebody is. And how many of us use others for enjoyment, entertainment, distraction, and gain? How sad. But if the message is, I don't care about anybody, I'm just one with God, It's just God. It's all God. So everybody's an object. Am I also willing to be the object? Questionable. Am I non-attached? Am I caring and concerned for others? And don't value or care for others? And you have to start looking at all of this. Sadhana is about being uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but in this day and age, globally, it's all uncomfortable. So it's a great time. What the heck? Let's just do sadhana because it's all uncomfortable. Are we able to accept discomfort as a chance to learn? Opposite, are we consciously purposeful? Or do we avoid discomfort at all costs? And so many people avoid discomfort at all costs. And they use that as positive. It's being positive. It's being spiritual. It's being good. And yet, what's happening within each of those people? Everything that they decide and judge as negative, they're pushing down and pushing down, which at some point, it all comes out. Has to. I used to say, if you keep pushing it down, it eventually comes out your navel. It has to come out. And people decide that anything that makes them uncomfortable is negative. Then what happens? Can't learn anything. There's no learning. So the negative of accept discomfort as a chance to learn is too much discomfort, exhausted, overwhelmed. And the positive of avoid discomfort at all costs, never have to change, never have to learn. And so what happens in sadhana and in life and psychology or whatever you want to call it is people then become above humanity. And the opposite of that is empathetic. And my Baba was totally empathetic. And I watch how people became above humanity before they were ready to become above humanity. And what's the positive? Because I see above humanity as negative. Don't have to care about anyone or anything. Nothing bothers you. just a grain of salt. And if we decide to live like that before we're ready to live like that, then we don't ever get to see what empathetic is. Empathetic is not lost in, it's fully human. And yet detached. A lot of people who, when they do the negative of empathetic, they say, feel too much. If you feel too much, you're not empathetic. You're just resonating with the other person. Empathetic is, I'm just feeling what you're feeling. It's not mine at all. I understand, I feel, I understand what you're feeling, but it's not mine. So I'm not drowning and resonating with you. I can actually, through my stillness, help you. That's what Baba did. Above it all, opposite is in the trenches. People say, oh, you're doing sadhana. You should be above it all. You shouldn't be in the trenches. Baba was in the trenches. He's the one that taught me to be in the trenches. And above it all, aloof and arrogant. In the trenches, committed to community. So, in this time, how many people are having panic attacks, anxiety, freak out? It's everywhere. And where anybody had it at the bottom of their barrel, that they were kept it down, lo and behold, bam, to the surface, bam. Opposite of that is calm. Handle life with equanimity. But there's a positive to panic attacks, anxiety, and freak out. You get to, if you acknowledge it, aware that you need help and community. And that's an okay thing. But the belief is, for so many people who have deep sixed their panic, anxiety, and freak out, and only use it as a way to get community to help them. At all other times, everything is just positive. They see they don't want to get over this. They don't want to reach a place of equanimity and handling situations. because then they believe they will have no desire for community. At that point, when we've owned it all and we're free and clear, we can all laugh, enjoy, sit, and bask in God's love. What a cool thing. And it is the truth. And it is paradise, even though we are in physical bodies. But until that time, I know for myself, I'm committed to be in the trenches only for the sole purpose, if you're willing to free yourself to get to that place of love at all times. So if I would be above humanity as a negative or a positive, and you came to me with not mental pain, but true suffering and hurt, when I speak with you, it will not be about relax, let it go, God loves you. It may be true down the road. But where you are in the moment may not be there. But for those of you who want to stay stuck in the anxiety, freak out, and panic, I will do glad for you. Enjoy. And I will probably then say, enjoy your life. No, nothing to be done.